Welcome to the Real Turf Techs podcast for the technician that wants to get real. Follow along as we talk to industry professionals and address hot topics that we all face. Along the way, we'll learn tips and tricks. I'm your host, Trent Manning. Let's have some fun. This episode of Real Turf Techs on Golf Course Industries Superintendent Radio Network is presented by Foley Company, a strong supporter of equipment technicians and golf course maintenance departments everywhere. Foley Company offers a proven solution for above and below the turf for turf professionals everywhere. To learn more about Foley Company's line of reel grinders, bed knife grinders, and the Air 2 G2 family of products, or to find a distributor, visit www.foleyco.com. Foley, ready for play. Welcome to the Real Turf Techs podcast, episode 121. Today we're talking to Jody Farber, West Coast Territory Manager for the Foley Company. Jody supports Foley grinders and Air 2 G2 aerifiers. Let's talk to Jody. Welcome, Jody, to the Real Turf Techs podcast. Thanks for coming on.
Absolutely, Trent. It's a pleasure to be here with you. Good to see you and hear your voice, other than at golf shows.
Yes, or on your favorite podcast listening device.
Yes, absolutely. Yep, the earbuds.
It's kind of funny, I go back and I edit some of this episodes, and it's just so weird hearing yourself. Even as much as I've heard myself. So I don't really like to hear myself talk, so I don't know why I'm doing this. I don't know. We'll see.
You're doing it for everybody else's benefit. Let's go with that. And that
honestly, that was the whole intent, and I probably told the story 100 times, but that's the whole reason I started this, because I wanted to bring people together, and I wanted to shine a light on the technician, the mechanic, the equipment manager, whatever you're called at your facility where you're turning wrenches. Because it's been so good to me over the years, and I just really enjoy it.
Yeah.
Tell us how you got into the turf industry.
So after high school, which I played golf a little bit in high school, but not for high school. So I was into golf a little bit. Friend of mine, a couple years after high school, because I just didn't know what I was doing. I wasn't going to college because I just didn't want to. And I didn't want to waste time and effort going to college and trying to figure it out from there. So I just kind of took my time. And a friend of mine that was a year younger than myself had gone to Lake City Community College. And he told me about it when he was home after the year ended. He was doing his internship down in Naples, and I talked to him, and that sounded extremely interesting to me when he talked about the school. So I was there the next year. Didn't waste any time. I thought that was something I could really get into. I like working with my hands. I like being outside, like doing things and having a sense of accomplishment. So that's kind of how it got started. That was, goodness gracious, 98, 99.
Okay.
When I ended up at Lake City.
So did you ever tinker on anything as a kid?
I did some, not as much as most people in the industry. I meet people that that's all they did growing up. But my stepdad taught home building construction, and right next to his classroom in the high school was the automotive shop. Well, I took a small engine class just as an elective, because that was way better than taking another class with a big thick book. Mm-hmm. So, and I enjoyed it. So, I guess you could say, I got into it because you got students that are good, you got students that are bad, and I was the kind of student that was just good enough. So when it came to that, I really kind of wanted to go the vocational route.
Oh yeah. I think a lot of us in this field anyway can relate to that.
Yep.
I know that's what I said is, I'm done. I don't want to do any more school.
Yeah.
This is enough.
100% with you, man. Right after high school, I played baseball in high school. I probably should have played golf. I'm much better at that than I am baseball. But man, I had a couple of small scholarship opportunities at small schools, but I wasn't into the school enough. I could have played baseball, but they're going to make me go to class, and I wasn't into that. So I knew better.
You're working for the Foley Company.
Correct.
What's your responsibility there?
So I am the West Coast regional territory manager, I suppose. So I basically cover the West Coast, California, up through Wyoming and Montana, and up into the western provinces of Canada and
Okay.
Hawaii. I just this year, 2024, I lost a little bit of my territory, which worked out way better for the company. I had Australia, New Zealand, and Southeast Asia in my
Oh,
territory
wow.
up to last year. So, but we hired a co-opted employee with our distributors over that way, and man, he's been with the company I think 5 months or so now, taking over that stuff for me, and he's run with it since he has a presence there. So that's worked out good.
Yeah, that had to be tough going all the way
It,
over there to.
it was tough. I mean, it was always a 2 week trip, and it's 2 weeks seems like a long time to be away from home, um, especially if you ask my wife. But I got to
Mm-hmm.
see some neat things. But it's never enough time. I mean, the whole continent of Australia, you can't do much in a 2 week time span.
Right,
So
right, right. Yeah.
got to see some really nice areas, and I'm thankful for that. But as far as the company goes, we're much better off right now.
No, that makes a lot of sense. Is
Yeah.
Greg Turner still doing any
He
of
is
that?
still around. Yeah, he is actually in. As we're recording this, he's in Mexico right now. He still covers certain territories. He's kind of some of his territories got taken by the same guy that took mine
Mm-hmm.
because it works out good with him being over that way. But he's still got Mexico and a few other mainland Mexico and a few other areas. I've got Baja Peninsula. So
Okay, nice,
yeah,
very cool.
yeah,
Well, when you were at the golf course,
yep.
what was one of your least favorite jobs?
Oh goodness. Well, least
Was there a
favorite
bunch of
jobs
them?
I'll always be working on a spray rig that's full. Those are especially when it's a spray issue or a pump issue, and you got to pull hoses, you got to pull valves out, something along those lines. I couldn't tell you how many times I'd come home with green dye or blue dye or whatever the super was using that day. Um,
I don't. Does a sprayer ever break down when it's not full?
not often, not
Yeah,
often,
not often.
not
I mean,
often.
maybe you get some
It,
PMs in with it
it'd be
empty,
better
but
if it just wouldn't start at the beginning of the day, and then we can work on it from there. But now,
right.
always, as soon as they fill it up, it just won't do anything. So,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, we had that this week with we have it's a Han spray bug. So
okay, yeah,
it's
I've
yeah, I
seen
don't know if
those.
you're familiar with those, but really cool product.
Yeah,
And as soon as they fill it up, very first tank of the day, it won't move. I'm like, really?
fun.
Yeah. So anyway,
Yeah, those
we
are
got
probably
we
fun.
got the parts on the way.
Yeah, nice, good.
So yeah, anything else at the golf
You know,
course where?
I always had fun with electrical. Electrical was always, like I say, I did not do other than Lake City. I was not a. I didn't go to any other vocational schools, so what little bit of training and on the job training I got, and I started getting into the CTEM certifications and never really finished them. I
Mm-hmm.
started that, which I had planned to do, but then as I was moving around and changing positions and stuff, I never got around to it. So electrical for me was probably my biggest pet peeve when it came to working on almost anything.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I don't think you're alone. I mean, I think
No,
there's a
no,
lot of us. You know,
it's
that's
fun.
you can't see it. So
No,
how do you troubleshoot it? How do you figure it
yep.
out?
I
It's
remember being
invisible.
told it's a roadmap. You get that schematic out, and they say it's a roadmap. You just got to know what all the symbols and everything means. And I feel fairly comfortable. If I had an issue right now, I could probably still do it. But
Mm-hmm.
it's fun.
Oh yeah,
Electrical
yep.
can
It
be
can
fun.
definitely be fun.
Yeah.
What's your favorite tool?
Well, it would have to be the grinder. I mean, every technician that I go see anywhere that I've trained anything, I mean, the grinder is the tool that really helps us do what we got to do. As far as technicians go, our job is to make that golf course look pretty for the superintendent.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's not much other than the equipment technician or the equipment manager, other than a grinder that can help with that. So,
No, that's yeah, very 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 good
and,
point.
and yet that's not just because I work for Foley, but I mean, but yeah, grinders definitely important. One of my favorite tools I got into, speaking of the electrical, was a power probe. I had one of those for the last couple years of being in the shop, and
Mm-hmm.
I've been out now for about 3 years. But yeah, man, the Power Probe that was a fun tool. It was pretty cool. Helped out a
Yeah,
lot.
I've yet to try one, but I remember Tony. He was a very first guest, and that
Okay.
was his favorite tool was the Power Probe.
Oh, was it? No,
Yeah,
Tony
yeah,
Bevelot. Yeah.
yep, Bevelo,
Yeah.
yep. Um, so yeah, maybe I need to get one.
You got to get yourself one. I mean, I
Yeah.
use it for. I've got a fifth wheel trailer now. If it'll help you with any trailer wiring or anything like that, so it's a great tool to have around.
Well, enough said. If you have a trailer, you have trailer wiring problems. I don't know what I mean. I don't understand it. We
Yeah.
bought a new equipment trailer basically because I got the two courses and we move stuff back and forth, and it's 2 years old and the lights don't work. And I'm like, really? That's
Yeah.
all you can get 1 year out of lights on a trailer.
Real. Yeah.
Or, somebody runs into it, knocks a light
Hmm.
out. I
Oh
mean,
yeah.
it's just
Yep.
always something with a
Yep.
trailer.
There we go. Back to the electrical.
Yep, back to
Be
electrical.
nonstop. They'll be wireless eventually. I bet somehow, some way, they'll make them wireless.
That, yeah,
If they're
you
not
need
out
to.
now, I haven't seen that.
I hadn't
Don't.
seen it either. If they're not out, we need to invent that
Yeah. Yeah. Let's
right
cut that
now.
part out so nobody else takes that idea, will you?
Okay. Yeah, we're going
Let's
to
do that.
cut. Um, what do you do to relax or find your balance?
So I go camping. My wife and I love to go camping. We've been married 13 years now, I think. My wife and we're on our fourth travel trailer, and we go to Utah to the mountains. We're making our first trip this year. I live in Vegas. We're making our first trip over to California to the beach in this year, so we're looking forward to that. I do play golf, even though sometimes that's not relaxing.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
So
That's why I quit.
I've found a great way to do it though. When I travel, I walk when I golf, which is I don't do that in Vegas much because it's just too hot. But I listen to jazz music when I'm golfing, and
Okay.
I've never been into jazz music before. But I watched a show on some streaming service, and the guy listened to jazz a lot. And I'm like, I kind of like it. I don't know anybody that sings it. I don't know any of the songs, but I like listening to it, and I find it very relaxing on the golf course.
No, I could definitely see
Yeah.
that. And
Yep.
the golf course, if you're not playing golf, can be very relaxing.
It can be. Yeah.
And
Absolutely.
and maybe it can while you're playing, but I
Yeah.
never was able to get there, and that's why at a young age I just kind of gave up on the game
Yeah.
and said, "This is not my game. I'm going to go fishing.
Yeah.
I enjoy that
Yeah.
a lot more."
Yeah. I miss that from when I was in South Carolina. I miss the fishing in that area.
Okay, yeah. So let's back up a little bit. You
Yep.
were in Florida at Lake City.
Yes. Yes. So grew up in Florida, born and raised, went to Lake City, 98, 99. First job out of Lake City was with Westcoast Turf, the Toro dealer. I figured, and of course, Lake City, when you're coming out, there's dozens and dozens of jobs available. List is way longer than it should
Mm-hmm.
be, unfortunately. Um, but I decided since I really didn't work on anything in the past, I had no real golf course experience. I thought going to work for the distributor to start with was going to be a great step for me. So I
Mm-hmm.
went to Westco Turf, the Toro dealer down in Sarasota, Florida, and I was a new equipment setup technician. So I think that really helped me down the road because what I did was I put things together when they were new, so I got to see
Mm-hmm.
how they were supposed to be. So as I got some of the older equipment at golf courses, I say, okay, well, this isn't quite right because I remember how this was supposed to be. So I think that really kind of helped me down the road there.
I got a funny story with that. So when I was working for Jerry Pate, the Toro distributor, our setup guy on the 5510 fairway units, they have a metal bracket that holds the hoses, the hydraulic hoses going to the front reel motors.
Yep.
And for whatever reason, our setup guy was putting them on the rear units. And I didn't know any better either.
Yeah.
I mean,
That's how they
he's
came
the
in.
setup guy.
Yeah.
Um, so anyway, I think I was at Augusta National, and Jeff Drake, Toro engineer, said, "Why are those back there? And I'm like, that's how we set all of them up. That's the only way I've ever seen them. He's like, what? No, they do not go there. And after he said that, I was like, well, that makes a lot of sense. I
It
kind of
makes more
wondered.
sense
I was
when you do
like,
it.
what is it doing back here? I don't see the
Yeah.
purpose of this. They just got extra steel rod that they need to sell and they're trying to
Yeah.
get rid of.
Yeah.
I mean, I had no idea what they were doing with it. But so back to the setup job, that is a very
Yeah.
important job.
Oh yes, absolutely. Yeah, and I mean, I tell you what, it was an eye opener for me because when I would set something up, and I thought I was done with it, it would go to the lead setup guy, and I most of the time wouldn't be done with it because he would
Mm-hmm.
always find something. He put a hand on every nut and bolt and hose and everything you could think of that he could reach to see if anything was loose at all, and that was interesting to me to watch to have that experience and to see how that was. So,
Well, that shows you how important it is too, because you send that machine to a customer and it's
yeah.
got a loose hydraulic hose on it, and then they pinstripe
Yes,
a fairway.
I have heard of that recently in one of my recent travels. A brand new triplex showed up at a golf course. They took it out to use it, dumped oil on the green, brand new, first time using
Mm-hmm.
it. So yes,
Yeah,
very very important job.
no, it definitely happens, and
Oh
I
yeah,
think the blame gets thrown around. Sometimes people say, "Oh, this is the manufacturer,"
yep,
and then, "Oh no, it's
yep,
the
yep,
distributor." So everybody wanting to pass the buck.
yeah, yeah. You never know
But
who it was, but
while we're talking about that, I do
yeah,
think maybe it's more common now than it used to be. I definitely think it's more common now than it used to be. When you
yeah,
get a new piece of equipment, just putting your hands on a lot of that stuff and just kind
yeah,
of double checking it,
yep.
because we're all humans. We
Oh,
all make
absolutely.
mistakes every day.
You can't catch everything. It's just not. Most of the time, it's just not possible for one person to catch everything. So more
Hmm.
eyeballs is always better.
Yeah, we had one of the customers we had when I was working for Jerry Pate. If we took something to his course, even just a demo, he put it
Hmm.
on his lift, he
Yeah.
raised it up, he inspected everything. I mean,
Yep.
they were on top of it,
Yeah.
and
Absolutely. Yeah.
rightfully so.
And
It's
if
not
yeah,
like,
if it's going on your course, you should be on top of it. That's the way I feel about that.
yeah, no, I agree with you 100%
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
What's been one of your biggest challenges throughout your
Oh,
career?
a lot of times dealing with member feedback. I mean that I've been at a couple places. I have worked for the same superintendent at four different places, and hearing some of the feedback from the members, that's always a challenge. Just trying to make them happy, really. Um,
Hmm.
part of part of why I didn't go that route. That was kind of a thing that I was looking at doing, was going towards the superintendent route, but decided to step back and stay in the shop.
Yeah, and I've had the same thought. Like, if
Yeah,
a lot of us, I guess we talk about it, we think about it, we get, to the highest level pretty much we can at our
yeah,
club, and, what's the next step? And some of us have made that step. Some of, a lot of us hadn't, and
yeah,
that's quite all right. And I
yep,
think, I mean, I'm with you. The main reason I did not make that step is I don't think I would do well with the membership.
yeah,
I'm not a good politician, and you
yeah.
need to be a pretty good
Absolutely,
politician.
you do. Yep. You gotta be able to sell yourself and your ideas to the membership and convince them of why you're doing what you're doing, even if they see that it's different than the last guy. Maybe there's a reason the last guy's not there. So you got to be able to deal with all their challenges and all their requests that are probably all going to be different. So
Well, yeah, and that's the other thing. I mean, I guess it depends on your club and the structure and all that stuff.
yeah,
But yeah, when you got all these different people that pushing their own agendas and all that thing, and then it's probably just a legendary tale about the superintendent that pissed off a kid that ended up as president and then
yeah,
fires the guy. I don't know. That's probably made
yeah.
up, but I could definitely see it happening. I mean, people hold grudges.
Oh yes, yes, absolutely. Yep.
Well, do you have a mentor in the industry or?
A lot of people, I mean, in 20, gosh, I've been 98, 99, so 24, 25 years now. Like I said, I worked with the one superintendent at four different places. He was also a Lake City grad, Ken McCutcheon. He's
Okay.
at Tucson Country Club now. I would have to say probably him. Seemed like every time he moved, got a different job, better job, he would kind of drag me along because we got along well. And he also is the one I was his assistant super for about a year
Mm.
here in Las Vegas at Las Vegas Country Club, and that's pretty much the reason I decided, yeah, you know what, I'll stick to the shop. I'm happy there. I know what I'm
Mm-hmm.
doing. I don't have to deal with the things you're doing. So he really taught me a lot of different things though, and on the agronomy side, which has helped me for immensely throughout the years. So I'd have to say Kent would be.
How important is that for a technician or mechanic or equipment manager to know about the agronomy side?
You know, I think starting out it's not extremely important, but you really need to pick things up as you go. I'm a firm believer in never stop learning. I mean, that's a phrase that gets thrown out there all the time, and but why would you? I mean,
Mm-hmm.
there's no reason to stop learning, and it really helps the technician to know a little bit at least about the agronomy side, just so you know why you're doing what you're doing in the shop. Um, why are they putting sand down constantly? I know that's probably something that techs don't like, but I mean, there's a reason they do it.
Well,
So,
right, yeah, and the more you
learn.
understand the
Yes,
reason behind it, the more
yeah,
acceptable it is to.
yeah. It's acceptable. You still don't like it, but you understand it. So I think, yeah, always keep learning about that type of stuff.
When I mean, a lot of stuff since we've been, around a golf course for so long. I'm saying, like me and you, people that's been around for 25 years on a golf course, we take so many things for granted. And I mean, we hire people in that's never played golf. They don't even know what a fairway is,
Oh yeah,
and it's like,
absolutely. Yeah,
how do you not know that? But, you don't know if you don't know.
yeah. Tell somebody go rake bunkers, and they look at you like, well, "What's a bunker?" I mean,
Right. Yeah.
you call
Well,
it a
what is a
sand trap,
bunker?
they'll probably figure it out. But
Yeah. You call a bunker. Yeah.
hopefully, yeah,
They're looking for a ditch out there or
yeah,
something
yeah,
to get
exactly.
in.
Yep,
Yeah.
yeah.
What's one of the strangest things you've seen around the course
No,
or in your travels?
I've seen a deer head as a belt rack before, mounted deer head in a shop with belts hanging off the antlers.
Okay.
That
All
was,
right.
I'd call that strange. I
Yes.
probably still have that picture too, because I mean, you got to take a picture of that when you see it.
Right.
Um, one course that I got to when I took over the shop, I was doing a hydraulic oil change, and I looked at the filter, the hydraulic oil filter. It was a Toro, I believe, a 50 or 5410. You got the hydraulic filter, transmission filter, right behind the center cutting unit, and it
Mm-hmm.
was completely silver on the forward side. No paint, no nothing. Backside's all white. So I asked the assistant mechanic, I'm like, "Hey, when's the last time you changed the oil in this, the hydraulic oil and filter?" And the response I got was, "Hey, yeah, the last head tech said that if you open up and that filter and you're opening the hydraulic system to the elements. So we never changed oil or filters because you break the seal." I'm like, you know that all those tanks are vented, right? So they're open to the elements always,
Mm-hmm.
no matter what. So that was an interesting one. That first time I had seen or heard of that. So
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know where I've seen or heard, but I know I've run across it too.
yeah,
I
yeah,
I
it's
don't
it's
know.
it's lack of training, lack of reading, lack of knowledge. I mean, it's unfortunately all too common out there. But
Yeah, it is, and I mean it's a shame that Lake City's not there or
yeah,
another pro. I know they're doing some stuff at Ohio State. I don't really know of any others that are doing
yeah,
anything. I'm sure there's some others around,
yeah. There's got to
but
be some out there because man, it's in my travels. I ride around with a lot of sales reps with the distributors, and they're all getting phone calls from their superintendents in their areas. Hey, if you hear of any techs, let me know. And it's abundant.
Um, what would be your dream job or opportunity?
Opportunity, I would say I would love to go help grind reels at St. Andrews for the Open Championship. I know they
Oh,
just had it there a couple years ago. They went the 150th, so it's going to be a while before they do it again. But I would just love to go. For one, I'd love. I mean, obviously, probably not going to be playing in that tournament. So if they'll let me grind
mm-hmm.
reels, I'll be just as happy.
Oh, that would
So
be so
yeah,
cool.
that would be yeah. That's kind of one of my things. Being an avid
Do you know what
golfer.
type grinders they have?
I do. They've got one. I believe they have a Foley and a Bernhard right now.
Okay.
So we
Well, you
recently
got a
got
little
one. We
foot.
got one in there
You
just in
got
the
a little
past
foot in the
year or so.
door.
Yes, yep,
Oh,
yep. And
okay. Yeah.
we're hoping for that second foot before long.
All right.
But
Well, awesome.
there's those are always challenging to get into. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
that's
Yeah, something that
logistically
big.
that's much easier the other route, but
Yeah,
we're
yeah.
working on them.
That's awesome. Very
Yeah,
cool.
yeah.
Do you have a technician you would like to work with for a day?
You know, I as many as I've been around, I recently met a guy, and this is a guy up in near Coeur d'Alene, Idaho. Derek Bigler. I don't know if you know Derek at all.
No, not familiar.
Derek's he just talking to him, going through some grinding stuff with him. And I'm sure if he listens to this, he'll be okay with me saying he's a strange fellow in the fact that he wants 100% perfect,
Mm,
and which is there's nothing wrong with that. But he will study anything and everything to figure out a better way to do something, even if it may not work out. But just I spent a little bit of time with him
mm-hmm.
at his shop, and next time I go back, I'll be going again. But he was a very interesting guy. So just working with someone like that to see the way that their mind works, I think would be interesting.
Oh
He's
no,
at
yeah.
he's at the Circling Raven up in just outside of Coeur d'Alene, Idaho.
Okay. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, and I hadn't really. I guess I've never really thought about it that way. Most time, I
Yeah,
think about somebody I'd want to work with is knowledge that I would gain from them,
yeah,
but I I mean I see that route too, just
yeah.
learning kind of a different mindset and
Different mindset. Yeah, yeah. He's got
the
different
way
ways of
he
doing
thinks
things,
about it.
and I
Yeah.
mean, everybody has their own little way, but and generally everything gets done roundabout the same way as far as
Mm-hmm.
setting cutting units and sending mowers out and all that. But there's be interesting to see a different mindset on what somebody thinks like him.
Yeah, and I've noticed too. I've spent a little bit of time with some newer people to the industry, not
Yep.
necessarily young people, but middle-aged people coming into the
Yeah.
industry, and it's really interesting how they look at stuff.
Yes. Absolutely.
And I mean,
Yep.
we all look at stuff different because of our past experience, and we all have different past experiences. But
Yep.
I definitely think people that hadn't been in the industry look at things a lot different than we do that's been here for a long time,
Yeah.
for
Yep.
whatever that's worth.
Yeah. I completely agree.
What do you know now you wish you'd known on day one? It's another tough one.
Oh man, there's a lot I know now that I didn't know day one. That's for sure. I'd probably say utilizing my peers. There's so many people out there that are much smarter than me, and I started doing it fairly early because when I went to school, I mean, at Lake City there was, I believe, about 30 of us in the two classes that I know of. There's maybe four or five that are still in the golf industry.
Mm-hmm.
And I've reached out. I know you know Stephen Tucker. I went to
Mm-hmm.
school with him. He was a great friend. I still stay in contact with him somewhat, not as much as we used to.
Mm-hmm.
He's a little busier now than he was when he was turning wrenches, I'm sure. But yeah, just using them for any issues that I've come across that just dumbfound me. It's there's always something you come across that you think you've checked everything, and then you find a forum somewhere, or you make some phone calls and you say, "Hey, have you seen this?" And somebody somewhere has seen it. more than likely.
Oh yeah,
So
yeah, for sure.
using people early and often to help you figure problems out probably be something I wish I would have known more about early on.
When I interviewed Seth Sheldon at Oakland Hill,
Hmm.
that was one of his things was if he spends more than 5 minutes on something, he
Yep.
picks up the phone.
Yeah. That perfect. Yeah. And
Yeah.
man, I don't know how many times I mean, you get it in you. You got a competitive nature. You want to win, so you want to figure it out on your own. But there again, once you get the experience and you say, okay, I've checked everything now I can think of. Let's just find somebody else and make some phone calls and figure it out.
Yeah, I'm guilty. I'll spend
Yeah.
all day
No,
beating my head against the wall.
I yep.
I just
I
want to
spent
figure it out. And I
I
mean, it's
spent four
not.
or 5 hours trying to figure out why, when I was rolling greens one time on a Smithco greens roller, why were the linkages by my foot pedals sparking every time I switched directions? And this machine is 4 years old. I, nothing wrong with it. And I spent hours trying to figure that out. And I checked all the connections first. Everything was good. Finally got on the phone, and I think, actually, it might have been John Patterson that said, double check your ground. I'm like, well, I checked it. It's fine. He goes, double check it again. So I basically just ran another wire from the engine block to a different spot and went away. I mean,
Mhm.
the current ground wire didn't change, but man, there's a something happened, and it threw me. So
Oh yeah, and rely on your road techs too
yeah,
on stuff like that.
yeah,
Because I mean, I remember the days when I was on the road. It was all the time. We had however many 5510s in our territory, and they
yeah,
all had the exact same problems.
yeah,
And yeah, you would see a oddball problem here or there, but normally if one had a problem, the rest of them did too.
yeah, yeah.
And I never agreed with telling a customer that's the first time I've ever saw that because I mean you hear that all the time.
Yeah.
So if
I,
somebody
I'm
called me, I would
unfortunately,
just
yeah, I'm guilty of saying that to people. So being only about 3 years in with Foley, man, I see stuff now that obviously I haven't seen because I haven't been with them long enough.
mhm.
So hate saying that. You're right, but I jump on the phone and call the factory. Hey, somebody else had to have had this problem. What do I got going here?
Oh yeah,
So
yeah, for sure. Well, and it was my
yeah,
favorite thing to say is I've seen that 12 times in the last 6 months.
yeah, yeah,
So you're not the
you,
only one.
yeah. You
And
know
this is
right
what
where to
we're going
go
to
at that
do to
point.
correct it. And yeah,
Yeah,
all those things.
yeah.
I'm just thinking here. Could we talk about some Foley stuff?
Sure. Yeah.
Um, about because I do have some personal questions that I want answered.
Okay. I'll answer them
And
as best I can.
yeah,
What?
fair. Well, right. Yeah, yeah. No, yeah. And I'm not wanting to give away any trade secrets or
Yep.
anything like that. But how do you? I don't know if you say reparallel grinding head on like I have the Foley 653 and
Yes.
I know it has a dial indicator and it's supposed to be on 300s kind of home base.
Yep. Yeah.
If
There.
that got knocked off, how would you
Hmm.
go about resetting that?
So there is on our website on the you go to foleyco.com. There's a support tab up top.
Mm-hmm.
There are training videos, and I have not had the pleasure of doing that yet. I'm working. Hopefully this year I'll get to our actual service school because I mean with my background I want the service school
Oh yeah,
just
for
so
sure.
I know. But there is a video on there for reparalleling that.
Okay, awesome.
Yes.
Yeah, because I definitely need to
Yep.
check that
Yep.
out
It'll
on
You have to
mine.
scroll down, and if you don't see it in the first, most of the videos in the beginning are training videos. So scroll down, and if you don't see it, then there's more videos. It takes you straight to the YouTube page, and it'll
Okay,
it'll be on there.
awesome. Yeah, any other videos you can think of that might be of interest to
And you know
customers?
what? It's when a new tech takes over a spot and they have a grinder they've never used. If it's a Foley, it will be on our website. I've had to do training on a Foley, gosh, what was the one that I did that I had never even seen the controller before? 605, I believe it was.
Okay. Yep.
It had buttons and dials and stuff I had never
Hmm.
used. And I go help this new tech do training on his grinder that I've never used. So I watch those videos. And then if it's not on there because it's way too old, then
Hmm.
I will call the factory. We got
Yeah.
guys
Yeah.
in the factory that have been there for 30 years and they know what they're doing. So I rely
Oh
heavily
yeah.
on them, sometimes too much.
Well, it's funny. It's I don't it was recently after my Jerry Pate days for the next 5 years, I guess, when I went back to a golf course after I left Jerry Pate. At
Yeah.
least for 5 years, I had made friends in the industry and local people around me, and if they had a Foley problem, they'd call me,
Yeah.
and I would end up calling Vince.
Yep.
And I remember asking Vince one time, "Is there any other customer call you as much as me?" And he says, "No, I don't think so." You know how like how
Yep.
straight and dry he is.
Yep.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
awesome.
Yep. Oh yeah. I rely on Vince heavily. Vince and Greg Lachansky. Whoever, if one doesn't answer the phone, I call the other one immediately because typically I'm needing something quickly, and I'm
Hmm.
very fortunate that they're able to help out usually pretty quick. So
Yeah, they've been over the years been a great resource for me for sure.
yeah,
Get ready for tips and tricks. Well, let's get
yeah.
into some tips and tricks. You got any you want to
Okay.
share with us? Any of your favorite ones?
Probably one of my favorite things I ever got at a golf course, and this is kind of a shop tool in a way, but it's also ultrasonic cleaners. They're becoming more popular. I don't know. I don't know who started using them first, but I did see one on. I believe it was a Hector shop. I think he had one
Yeah.
a
Yep.
while back. And when I was in South Carolina, man, we had 36 holes, and I've never seen more backpack blowers in my life. And just being able to pull those carbs off of those things, throw three or four of them in the ultrasonic cleaner, put them back on the next morning, and let them run like a champ.
Hmm.
Those things were a lifesaver. Two stroke stuff to me was just it was important, but gosh, it was annoying to work on. So the ultrasonic cleaner really helped out. And then and same type of thing, a vacuum evacuator for changing oil in little
Oh
things.
yeah. Hmm.
Gosh, I mean the old Toro 1000s, you'd have to pull the plug and tip the mower back, and then it runs all over the drum, and then you got to clean all that up. So
Right.
those things, man, what a lifesaver! Get that oil a little warm, put that tube down in the crankcase, and suck it out, and move on your way. Well, put oil back in it, obviously, and then move along.
Well,
So,
right. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
say,
Do that
say,
first.
yeah, you want to do that.
Back to the ultrasonic cleaner.
Yeah.
So I helped this guy. He was a small engine guy,
Mm-hmm.
and he was the first time I'd experienced ultrasonic cleaner. So I took a carburetor and took carb clean and cleaned it as spotless as I could clean it.
Yeah.
And we put it in the ultrasonic cleaner, and he done this for fun, but he just had changed the fluid, so it had fresh fluid in there, and it's nice
Yeah.
and clear. And he turns it on, and I see all this stuff start coming out of the carburetor. I'm like, you got to be kidding me!
Everything you missed that you can't see.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean it's unbelievable how good that
Yeah.
does.
Yeah.
And I want to second the vacuum pump. And so it was funny. It wasn't too long after John Patterson came up here to the Atlanta Athletic Club. I went over just say hey, checking in. Well, I don't even remember why I was over there. And I'm looking around this shop, and I see a Lincoln oil evacuator
Yeah.
that's air powered. Out of all the picture, I took one picture while I was over there, and it
Yeah.
was of the model number of that. So when I got back, I could order one.
Of all the
And
nice fancy stuff, you take a picture of that.
yeah, right, exactly.
Yeah.
That's where my head was that day,
Yeah.
anyway.
Hey, whatever makes your
But I,
job easier.
well, I will say, so that one works great on a lot of stuff, but on the little walk mowers,
Mm-hmm.
I still like the Mighty Vac.
Mighty
It's a
vac.
hand, it's the hand pump, but it has that really big tube, so
Yeah.
it sucks it out quick.
So I had the Mighty Vac, but the air operated one. So you hook the air hose to it, and it does the same exact thing, just a little pricier. But yeah, I mean that was just so convenient. And then I would just As soon as I was done, I would take some brake cleaner and spray down the tube as it's to clean out the tube. So when you take it out, it's not dripping all over everything.
Well, right.
So,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
No, very true. And while
yeah.
we're talking about that, so I had a kid, he's still in high school, um, helping me last summer, and he was changing. So to make the story make sense, I bought the pneumatic evacuator.
Hmm.
I didn't have a Mighty Vac at the time. We'd thrown it away. It started leaking or whatever.
Yeah.
And he didn't like using it to change oil on the walkers. So he was taking out the oil plug and he strips a drain plug.
Mm.
And I said, okay. I call up the auto parts store. I get them to bring one over that day. I said, we're never pulling a drain plug again in one of these.
Yeah.
It's not, it's not worth it. It's
Yeah.
not because, it's aluminum and yeah, it's too easy
Yeah.
to strip something out. Is that it for tips and tricks?
Yeah. I mean, other than the which I'm sure everybody's got, having a drawer full of wrenches that you've heated up and bent and
Yeah.
shaved and cut on. I had a separate drawer with Harbor Freight type wrenches. That's all that was for. Man, you always got to have something like that. There's always something you just can't reach with a normal wrench or socket or something. So
Oh, yeah, for sure. And that reminds me, I got a set. I love Snap On. I'm dumb. I shouldn't buy it. I know it's overpriced. All these things.
yeah,
But a buddy of mine, he bought a Snap On box that was full of tools, and he calls me. He says, "Would you have any use for these 4-way wrenches? It starts at 3/8 and it goes to inch and a quarter." And I said, "Oh my God, yes, I need that."
yeah,
Um, I forget the set's like $1,600, for
yeah,
one set of wrenches.
yeah,
And I was like, "What do you want for him?" He said, "I'll take $500." And I said, "Okay." I'm like, getting a speeding ticket on the way to his house before he changes
yeah,
his mind. But those have come in so handy,
yeah,
hydraulic hoses and stuff and fittings. And I mean, not to say you don't need a crow's foot every now and again, but
yeah.
those 4-way wrenches are really handy.
Yes,
And
absolutely.
they're the first set I bought, I did buy, I think from Harbor Freight, and they worked okay, for what they were.
Yeah,
You're in a tight spot, and hopefully it's
you
not that tight.
can get away with some stuff.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. You can.
Yeah.
All right. So, wanted to talk about cutting units, didn't you?
Yeah, so yeah, just something we discuss amongst ourselves and when we have our meetings and things that I talk to people about when I go out and do trainings. As you know, using a Foley, we're gauging. We're gauging to the
Mm-hmm.
center shaft, which gets us right where we need to be. Is the center shaft always perfect? No. Did on the old Foley, when you're using that dial indicator gauge and you get everything zeroed out, you're like, okay, now I'm zero. Now I'm zero. And then I hear people say, well, I want to go back and recheck with my new one. I'm like, what? You don't go back and recheck with the new one. And they wonder why. And I'm like, well, we're within spec. So run with it.
Mm-hmm.
Within spec means 1 to 2 thousandths. And some people are like, okay, well, I want to be zero. I want to be 100% zero. I'm like, okay, well, you can be 100% zero until you turn the roller over, your front roller, your rear roller. Now you're not zero anymore.
Right.
As soon as you change it, I mean, I have a lot of people that have told me, yeah, I want to get this thing perfect. I'm like, okay, we're trying what we're trying to do is be efficient and accurate. That's what we want. We want you to be as accurate as you can possibly be, as quick as you can get it done. I mean, yes, you need to take your time, get it done right, but nothing is perfect on that cutting unit. So spending the time to flip the roller over and zero it out and then turn that reel around, try and get a little bit closer to zero. We're really splitting hairs. And I have that discussion with quite a few people, and
Mm-hmm.
we can try all we want to get that cutting unit absolutely perfect. As soon as you put it on that green's not perfect. So all that time you spent zeroing everything out, man, what how much time could you have been spent doing something else? So
No, I'm with you.
I've seen it in my time. I mean, when I was in Florida one time, we mowed greens. Never got above 100 at one course I was at.
Mhm.
Never got above 100, and I had a set of grinders that I thought were pretty accurate at the time because I was early in my career. I
Mhm.
never had a problem. We can get everything done efficient and fast. That's what we're looking to do.
Yeah,
You
no,
know,
I agree with you there. I do think, some people jump down that rabbit hole too
oh yeah,
far and
yeah,
start,
and trust me, don't get me wrong. I want
chasing it.
everything. I hear people say, yeah, well, you should never say something is good enough. Well, how much time do you want to spend to make it even better? That's the thing you got to ask yourself. Now, are you at a place where you got 3 or 4 technicians and that's the only thing they do, and or
Mhm.
are you at a place where you're by yourself in the shop and hey, we got to get this done. We got to get this mower going. We only have one fairway mower. It's got to be out there. So let's get it done efficiently and accurately and get rolling.
Yeah, there's only so much time in a day.
Yeah.
So you got to pick your battles, and
Yep.
you just said it can never be good enough, or some people say that, and
Yeah.
it's like, well, at some point it has to be good
Yeah.
enough,
Yeah.
because I mean there's very few things that are perfect.
Oh yeah.
I
Yep.
mean, I don't know of any really
No,
that's
no, there
truly
isn't. And
perfect.
and and we've at Foley we check with the manufacturers. Okay, what are your allowable tolerances for rollers, for bed knife, bed bar setup? What are your allowable tolerances? And we try to build all of that into the machines and everything, and
Hmm.
that's we get the exact result we're looking for. So
Yeah, and it's one of those things. It doesn't necessarily matter the tools you're using as long as you're getting the results that you're happy
yes,
with.
yep, hundred
Can you
percent,
really argue with it?
yeah,
I
yep,
mean, there's people that do stuff ways that I don't agree with,
yep.
but they put out a good product.
You got a
So
good result. Yep,
I could never argue with them or tell them they're doing it wrong,
correct. Oh yeah,
because, and it's just like, you hear all these people talk about, oh, backlapping. Well, you're the devil if you backlap. I mean, some people look at it that way,
yeah,
but you got other courses that hold major tournaments that lap every single day.
yeah.
So how can you say,
How can you say they're doing it wrong?
yeah,
I mean,
right,
there's not a right way and a wrong way to get any of this done. As far as when it comes to cutting it,
right?
there's not a right way and a wrong way. If you're getting the product you want, then that's right for what you're doing.
No, I'm with you there. Is that the biggest
That's
thing
it.
you
Yeah,
see in your
yeah.
travels, is people trying to
Yep.
be too
Trying
precise
to
with
trying to be
what they're
too
doing?
perfect, spending too much time. Relief grinding is a thing that, gosh, in my experience coming up, I don't think I was, other than probably at Lake City, which I somehow shortly forgot. I was never shown the proper way to relief grind, so it would take me an hour to do a cutting unit, one cutting unit. So in the Vegas area, I would do relief grinding once a year. Maybe I would skip it a year because it was just taking too long. We're
Mm-hmm.
mowing all year long out here, even though it is
Yep.
cold in the winter. We're mowing all year long, and
Mm-hmm.
I would just skip it. And man, the first time I saw Greg Turner put a cutting unit up there and put relief on a Toro 5-inch 11 blade reel, it was done, and I'm like, "There's no way that's finished." I wasn't taught the proper way, so
Mm-hmm.
watching the training videos has helped me. Like I said before, watching the training videos and dealing with people that are doing it the correct way.
Right. I remember when I first started doing this, and I was working as a system mechanic for this guy. We ground, and I'm not saying this was the right way. This was not the right way to do it. But we never ground a greens reel. And we had an old Foley bed knife grinder. It was the predecessor to the 605 you were talking about. So the reel
Okay.
looks kind of like it's suspended in midair.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
But yeah, it was a little
Yeah.
older than that one, or 600, or I don't remember the
Yeah.
number. Anyway, the other reels we would grind once a year, and in the wintertime, and it would take us so long to grind, all the reels. And one of it, the grinder was old and it had its quirks and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But the biggest thing I think was the experience. So you do a task today and don't do that task again for a year and see how efficient you are at it. You're not very efficient.
You're not.
Yeah. So when you're grinding cutting units, every day, I mean, from, we're open year round too, but from March through September, our grinder don't hardly stop.
Yeah.
I mean, it's something all the time, especially, with top dressing every week and
green,
all these things. So you get really good. And like you're saying, I got a 653. I can throw a 14 blade DPA in there, spin it, touch it up, spin it, put a relief on it in 20 minutes. Tops. I mean, probably quicker than that, but I'm being conservative. I think 20 minutes.
Yep. I 100% agree. Quick. Yep, and that's the thing, repetition. When I go do trainings for guys, I'm like, okay, next thing you got to do is keep doing it. Don't let me walk out and then you try it again in a couple months. I'm like, you throw a few more reels up there. So that's the only way to learn anything.
No, I agree. I'm trying to learn this CAD program, and so I watched a video, and I did a little bit, and then I waited 3 months, and I watched the same video, and I done a little bit, and it just don't work that way. Or I mean, my brain doesn't work that way. I can't retain that kind of stuff for a long period of time, and I just have to get in there and start doing it. Repetition, like you say, repetition.
Yep.
Are you ready to do some rapid fire questions?
Shoot, let's go.
What's your favorite movie?
Favorite movie would probably be Shawshank Redemption. That's when if it's on TV, I don't care where it's at, I got to stop. I got to watch it.
Yep.
There's something about that one that gets me.
That's awesome. And you're not the first to say that. That's a very popular movie for sure.
I'm going to throw Green Mile out there too then, if somebody else said that. The Green Mile.
Oh, no. Yeah, man, that's another classic.
Man, yeah. That's another one that my wife gives me crap with. Like, you're going to watch this again? Really? I'm like, yeah, you just have to.
Mm-hmm.
I feel,
What would be your last meal?
Last meal? Well, I'm a meat and potatoes guy. A good steak. Man, when I went to Australia a couple years ago, I had a steak with our distributor, and it was called a stone scoth fillet. I remember I took a picture of it, and man, it was good. So I'd probably have to go for that. It's the best steak I've ever had.
I'm ready to go to Australia right now.
Yeah, it was.
Let's get on the plane.
It was amazing. Yeah.
One thing that disappoints me sometimes getting steaks, you go to wherever and you get a steak and you're expecting it to be something really good, and it's really expensive, and you say, I could have done better than this, on my Weber at home.
Yep,
it drives me crazy.
I got 2 grills in my backyard, and it's tough anymore. I make my own jerky fairly regularly, and it sucks when I got to buy it at the store because I've tweaked some recipes that I got on YouTube, and man, they're hard to beat.
Is that something they taught y'all at Lake City? The reason I asked, do you know Howard Horn?
I do, yep.
Yeah.
He does the same thing, huh?
I know he went to Lake City, and I know he makes his own jerky.
Yeah, man, the price of jerky, it's hard to not make your own. Yeah. I've got the wood pellet smoker, and I used to have a dehydrator, but the wood pellet smoker, man, is the way to go.
That's what Howard's using, and I'm gonna be honest. It's Howard's wife. She's the one that does the beef jerky. Howard cuts the meat. She does all the other work.
Cutting it's hard. Cutting it's tough.
Yeah, right. Got to give you a little credit.
Got an owner of a restaurant here bar/restaurant that wife and I go to, and I've given him some jerky. He actually gave me a meat slicer.
Oh, nice.
From the restaurant to use. Now, it's a commercial one, and it's massive, and I don't know where the heck it's going to go, but he wanted to try and make it easier for me. So
that's awesome.
I guess he expects jerky now more often, so we'll see.
Yeah, very cool. What are you most proud of besides your family? Obviously, families first.
Yeah, families first, man. I got 3 good kids. I was nominated in 2019 by my superintendent I was working for out here at Anthem Country Club, James Simons. He nominated me for the MVT, Foley's MVT,
Mm-hmm.
most valuable technician, and I didn't win. I voted for one of the other guys. But just to be nominated, be recognized by somebody like that, it was pretty special.
Yeah, no, that is it's a big achievement. You think about
Yeah,
how many technicians that are out there
yeah, yeah.
and how
There's
many really good technicians. I mean,
there's
there's
so
some,
many
yeah.
so many that are way more deserving of that than me. It's just, I mean, it was just an honor though to be nominated. So
Oh, I agree. Yeah,
so it kind of worked
for
out
sure.
when I sent my resume to Foley during COVID when I was in a temporary job, I thought, and
Mm-hmm.
Greg Turner calls me right away, and man, he's like, I know we've met. He goes, you were nominated a couple years ago for the MVT, so yeah,
Mm-hmm.
so it was made it interesting.
So another funny story about Greg, and it really made my day. So I just had to get my 653, and he was in town riding with the distributor, and he comes out to check it out, and we were going. He was giving me the basic rundown because
Hmm.
before that I had the 650, which there's
Okay.
big difference between a
Yep.
650 and 653. So he's kind
Yes.
of giving me a rundown on it, and we gauge the reel, we get everything set up. He closes the door, he turns on the switch, he forgot to lock to the belt
The
for
Traverse.
the
I do.
traverse.
I do it 50% of the time.
Yeah, so I want you to go back to Foley and see if we can get a electronic
Yeah.
switch on that.
Yep. Man, one of my most embarrassing ones was doing a brand new setup on a 653, and they come in from the factory with the Traverse turned all the way down to
Oh,
zero.
uh
So
huh.
I set it up. I'm like, okay, turn it on. Nothing's happening. I'm like, what the heck? I didn't look at that knob. That was my
Mm-hmm.
first one of my first trips with Foley. So
Yeah, yeah.
I took the control panel apart, and then I thought
Uh,
for a second. Instead of thinking first, I went straight
mm-hmm.
to panic mode, and then I thought, huh, let me look at that knob. Yep, it was at zero. So I
Yeah,
haven't done that again.
right, right. Well, you're a quick learner.
Yeah, yeah.
Tell the listeners how they can get a hold of you.
Oh goodness, well,
Yeah, what's
email.
your
Email
email?
is easy. Jody Farber at foleyco.com. Got Twitter, which I'm slow on. I used to be really in on Twitter, and I'm slower anymore than I used to be. It's Sin City Turf Tech, TURFTEC, no H on the end of that.
Okay.
Um, I am on Twitter there. Jody Farber. I am on LinkedIn. Jody
All right.
Farber on there. So no Instagram, no
Yes.
nothing else. I've got an Instagram for my dog, but not for me.
The dog has one, but you don't. I
Yep,
get it.
yep,
I don't. I mean, I'm on Twitter too, and that's enough. I can't
yeah.
do
That's plenty.
Instagram and
I don't.
Facebook
I,
and
I
all
don't
these
have
other ones.
Facebook. I don't. Yeah,
I
that's
don't.
enough. Yeah.
I do use Facebook Marketplace, and
I want Facebook just for the marketplace.
that's the only thing I
I
use it for. And I am a little bit of a hoarder, so
yeah,
it's not a good idea to get
yeah.
on Facebook Marketplace.
And I've started doing some woodworking as well. So
Yeah.
I don't want to admit this, but luckily nobody's going to hear it. So when I left my last golf course job, I sold my toolbox to the guy that took over for me because I
Mm.
knew if I kept that toolbox, I was going to continue to turn wrenches. And
Ah.
so
Yeah.
I sold it to him. I didn't even have to move it. He took my job at the golf course. I left it there. He took it over, and I do some woodworking stuff now at the house. And of course, I've got another toolbox here at the house that
Mm-hmm.
didn't last too long, but nothing like what I used to have. So it's just enough to get by with what I need. But yeah,
Well,
doing the
that kind of
woodworking.
makes sense, and I never
Yeah,
never even thought about that.
no,
But
make it
yeah,
less.
I don't know. I've
No,
talked about him
I,
before, but my buddy that's a blacksmith, he was a mechanic in the 70s, and if you
mm-hmm.
ask, he's been blacksmithing for like 25 years. If you ask him what he is at the end of the day, he'll tell you he's a mechanic.
Yeah,
It's like once you're a mechanic, you're always a
you
mechanic. Like you
always are.
can't ever get
You're
rid
not
of
getting
being
out
a
of it.
mechanic.
Yeah. Yep.
I
Every,
w-
every golf course you go to, somebody say, "Hey, my car's doing this." I'm like, bring me your mower. I don't work on cars.
Oh, right.
That's the first thing I'd say to him. I'm like, I'm not working on cars.
Yeah. No,
I had to work on my own.
Yep. I'm the same way. I work on my own and my kids, but nobody else. Well, thank you so much, Jody. I really appreciate you being on. This was a lot of fun.
Absolutely. Yeah. I just want everybody to keep an eye out on Foley's website. We've got some with the Air 2 G2 that that Foley acquired a couple years ago. We've got some studies finally coming out on that. We had University of Georgia do a study on it, and the Australia Greenskeepers Association. So,
that'll be awesome.
Good information about that machine. So,
very cool. Yeah,
our engineering team has done some good things with it, made some changes and stuff. So that's one thing that being with Foley, I think July will be 3 years for me. That's one thing I've really noticed being with them is what the effort that they put into listening to customers. And during COVID, they actually hired a new design engineer to help do some things that customers were asking for. So we've got some things that will probably be coming. We're always trying to update and stay with the new technology with our grinders and all our other machines. So just keep an eye out. Good things are always coming.
All right. I can't wait.
Thank you so much for listening to the Real Turf Techs podcast. I hope you learned something today. Don't forget to subscribe. If you have any topics you would like to discuss or you'd like to be a guest, find us on Twitter at Real Turf Techs. See you bye.